This is Confessions from a Red Couch podcast. I am your host, Janae, and this is a podcast all about improving the relationship with yourself so you don't take your trash to others. My guests and I talk about tips for self love and self care and ways to promote healthy relationships with others. So let's sit back and see what we are going to confess today. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of season 4 of Confessions from a Red Couch. I am your host, Janae, and as you know, this podcast is all about improving the relationship with yourself so you don't take your trash to others because no one wants your unresolved issues because no one wants that trash. And we talk about self-care, self-awareness, and things that affect you, whether it's internal, external. We talk about all those things. And today I am excited because I have a guest. I'm going to have him introduce himself, and also the guest can talk about the things that we're talking about today because he has the education to back it up. So for those of you who were talking about me last, whatever, I got you now. Anyways, so I'm going to have my guest introduce himself and talk about his podcast and his things, and then we're going to move forward from there. So introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Desmond Price. I have my own podcast called Independent Thought. It's the podcast is mostly centered around politics, but I also talk about just issues resolving in life. Sometimes I just have some interesting guests on to talk about things that aren't politically related, but mostly it is a podcast about politics. It's a pretty fresh podcast, just started earlier this year, but you can find us on most major platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so on and so forth. Um, Honestly, what I really got involved in the podcasting for was that I was watching a lot of things on the news, just kind of like talking about the different like issues going on in our world. I just felt like there was just so many perspectives that weren't being brought to the table. I just felt like there was so many like angles that you could look at a certain story that just were never being addressed. And so I thought that there
Mhm.
might be an avenue for me to get on there and just bring a different take on what's going on in the world. So if you're interested in that, please join me. Again, podcast name Independent Thought. Janae, thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. You are now, you are a guest today, but you know how it is when you visit people's houses the first time and they're like, all right, you're not a guest anymore. So
Right?
next time you come on, you know where the cups are in the kitchen. You could go get you some juice and then come chill out on the red couch again. So
For sure.
come chill out on the red couch. Well, let's get this party started. I kind of reformatted some things this season and not just to bring some positivity to the world because I don't know. I don't know. It's just crazy out there. So tell me about something that warmed your heart this week.
You know, as a person who tries to stay involved with some things politics, but also I need to take a break from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when those things will still intersect. I'm a big sports fan, and so
Mm-hmm.
watching I watch a lot of the just the NBA playoffs going on, and it was unfortunate ruling that came down this week about Breonna Taylor,
Yes.
but one of the things that really warmed my heart was seeing like the outpouring from the NBA players and talking about just pretty much just using their platforms in a way that we're not used to seeing from professional athletes. It's been a really long time coming as far as
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned because for the longest time it's just been one person here or there who made
Right.
one political statement and then the whole world went crazy. But it
Mm-hmm.
feels like now the NBA is kind of just let down the gates, I guess you would say, and just let these people just speak their minds all the time. So it was
Right.
nice to hear people like Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, Jason Tatum, just to name a few, just coming out and just in support of Breonna Taylor and her family. And so that warms my heart because it makes me feel like while it's a really small thing in an idea in the sense that like just people just speaking their mind, it is another step of progress in my opinion. And as long as we keep progressing forward, that's the most important thing.
So true. So true. I loved it when I saw them with the, you know, the or their T-shirts
Yes.
that when they opened everything back up and they had their T-shirts and their name changes on their jersey. I was like, you know what, that's pretty big because, and NBA is a business just like anything else, and so, you think about big business trying not to offend anybody, but at this point it's like, who cares?
Yeah, so that was something that definitely,
Mm-hmm.
warmed my heart because, I after seeing what ruling came down in Louisville,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I was surprised by the ruling because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely was not surprised by it, but just seeing the fact that people weren't going to be defeated by it, that's what I was afraid
Right.
of.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
seeing that reaction to it, that was good.
So who influenced you this week? Who was a great influencer for you this week?
You know, I actually got two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start with the famous person first. Actually, no. Yeah, well, okay. So I was watching episode of The Breakfast Club a couple days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Chris Rock come on, and Chris Rock is probably my favorite comedian of all time.
Yes.
And I mean, I've probably watched some of his old stand-ups like 5 or 10 times. It's something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so having him come on and he was talking about recently the fact that he's been going to see a therapist
Mm-hmm.
and just just working out his problems because like he had an old joke in one of his old stand-ups about the fact that when you meet somebody for the first time, you just you're not really meeting them, like you're meeting their representative.
Yep.
And he said that like he felt like whenever he was doing things like that he was always bringing his representative to those
Wow.
types of meetings, but like he
Mm-hmm.
felt like he's finally gotten to the point now where he can actually just bring himself.
Right.
How important that's been for him. And so I thought that was I thought that was a pretty big moment for somebody as big as him, someone as well known, as famous as he is, to like get onto the Breakfast Club, which is a huge platform, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk about like mental health like that. That's a stigma in our society that really needs to be erased. And I think by people like that in places like that, it really kind of like goes a long way for him to say something like that.
So true. So true. It's funny you brought up Chris Rock and saying how legendary he is. I always remember him from his role on the movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But where he's in the rib joint and he's like, how much for one rib? Dang, that's expensive, He's asking. And that it's just a running joke. Every time I think of him, I think of that. And like I hear myself saying those lines to people like randomly. But it is big that he came out and talked about mental health and therapy. And didn't he come out? Didn't he say he found out he had Asperger's, or he was on the spectrum?
Yeah, something like it wasn't Asperger's. He said it was like nonverbal learning or something like that.
It was something on the spectrum. I'm sorry if I misquoted that, but he is on the spectrum, and he came out and said, that kind of helped him deal with some things too.
Yeah. He was talking about both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was him. And then also another influence that I had this week was to my girlfriend, actually. She's been having some issues recently, just trying to, just get into shape and just kind of like just feeling like, a little bit more like active and just kind of like, getting back out there. But she kind of like took the dive this week and started like going to the gym, and she started going like every single day after like not going for like a few years and stuff like that. So I was pretty proud of her.
All right.
Because it's something that she's been avoiding for a long time, because she felt like she was like, oh, I feel too embarrassed to go back in there, but she conquered that fear a little bit and started going every day. So I'm really proud of her this week.
Shouts out to the girlfriend. Good things. I love it. We're going to get into some self-care tips, but we're going to pause and come back after this brief message from our sponsors. Hi guys, I'm Janae from Confessions from a Red Couch podcast, bringing you 5 minutes on the Red Couch. Each week, I will be bringing you 5 power-packed minutes on self-care tips, positive messages, heart-to-heart auntie conversations on life situations, and much more. Tune in each Monday at 7 p.m. Central for these quick sessions on the Red Couch, and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central for full episodes of Confessions from a Red Couch podcast. Join the email list on confessionsfromaredcouch.com to receive a free copy of my goal-setting affirmations. What do bubble baths, mindfulness, and talking to a therapist have in common? If you said self-care, then you are the winner. Welcome to Self-Care Tips from the Red Couch. All right, guys, thank you for continuing listening. We are going to kick it off with some self-care tips. So do you have any self-care tips you want to share with the peoples?
Yeah, you want to go every other? You want me to do all
Yeah, we
three
could
at
do every
once?
other. We could do
Every other.
every other.
Okay. Um, so my first one that I'm gonna say here is communication with the people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
As far as self-care is concerned, when I was thinking about coming on your podcast today, because just really quick shout out here. When I found your podcast at first, I went to your YouTube channel and I was, really feeling the vibe there. And ended up listening to your episodes on Apple Podcasts.
Oh.
And I was, when I was thinking about coming on the podcast, I was like, I need to have my self-care tips down. So when I was thinking about it the other day, I was like, my most important, self-care tip is communication. That's my number one thing in life,
That's a good
because
one.
I feel as though a lot of the stress that you have in your life comes from a lack of communication, whether it's like communication with your friends or your family, your significant other,
Mm-hmm.
your job. I mean, your job. Like that's a big one. Just
Yeah.
telling the people at your workplace like what you can and cannot handle.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a position where you can. I know everyone's job's different, but I feel like when I talk to other people in my life, I feel like they're always telling me about the problems that they have. And it's always like interpersonal problems, like problems with other people. And it feels like
Right.
every time that the conversation goes on for more than a minute, it always feels like it breaks down to like, you're just not telling this person what you need.
There it is. That's it right there.
Yeah, it's just
That's
like tell
it.
the people in your life what you need. Like
Yeah.
if they're really good people for you, like they will respond. Like you have to like let people know like, hey, this, like this right here, this isn't working for me. We got to change something. Like just never be afraid to be open with the people in your life. It'll always improve every like relationship in your life, I promise.
Yep. Being open and honest. Things get through. Oh, the miscommunication that we have,
Yes.
especially because we're in a digital age and through text messages, because nobody really likes to have conversations. I don't think you can really convey the tone of what you're saying through text message. Like some things do need to be said face to face, honest, open communication. No, I can't do this. That is too much for me. I don't like it when you do this. And some people find that hard, but it's not. It's you being open about what you need.
Right.
You know, I like that one. That's good. So sticking with that, that's kind of like a relationship type thing. Um, with your relationships in your life, no matter family, friends, loved ones, whatever, continue to be true to yourself. So that kind of goes with the communication. Be true to yourself. Do not put on these random fronts just to keep people around you. Because at
Mm.
some point, like you said, with what Chris Rock said, that representative is going to go away and your true self is going to come out regardless.
Yes.
So you have to be, when you're in relationships with people, doesn't matter with who, I'm not just talking about, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, doesn't matter with who, you have to be true to yourself. Because I don't
Yes.
know how many times people, you'll get in a relationship with somebody, a friendship, or even like with your coworkers, which I know we like to sometimes, put a barrier up like, okay, this is what I want people to know at work, and that's it. Sometimes things that have happened in your home life can affect your work life and the way that you interact with other people. So it's only so many times when your coworker can ask you, "Hey, you doing okay today?" And you say, "Yeah, sure," and you're lying because you're not. it's gonna
Exactly.
it's gonna show up somewhere in there that somewhere in there it's gonna show up that no, I'm not okay, and I can't have the representative show up anymore because it's not working.
Hey, you know what? I'm all about that because one of my biggest things in life is just, using my energy in the most efficient way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing saps more energy out of your life than trying to fake it.
Right.
I mean, just faking anything. I mean, I just feel like whenever you're just trying to like just create something that's not there, it always just takes a lot more energy than just letting it be, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you because it does. It gets tired. Have you ever met somebody that you know is faking?
Yeah.
I did this
You don't
one
even
time.
need to go on, but yeah.
Yeah, I did this one time. Like, aren't you tired of lying all the time? Because I like to say in Houston, for example, Houston's a big city, but it's a small city at the same time. Like, the connections you make, like, you just get connected to so many other people in the city, and then outside of the city as well. Like, you'd be like, oh, you know this person? Oh yeah, I know this person too. And it's just a small world. And
Yeah.
so you meet somebody that's fake, but then you also know somebody else who knows them, like, for real. And you're like, it's like, aren't you tired of lying? Aren't you tired of putting on this front? Because I know your business. You don't want to seem messy. You don't want to seem messy or anything, because you find things out about people, but it's just like, stop pretending. Like, stop it. Stop.
Oh my
Everything is
God.
out there. Just stop doing that. Okay, that was a small rant. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you fine. You fine. I was trying not to go on to it with you. I was about to go on
Mhm.
Instagram about it, but
Oh no, you can. It's okay.
just real quick on it. I just,
Mhm.
you know, that's the one thing that I feel like, Instagram kind of like, and all social media, but I think
Yes.
Instagram in particular kind of like does a disservice to people. Like we
Mhm.
all want to put like I think that's like where people put the fakest versions of themselves.
Yes, I
Like
agree.
you go on Instagram and you feel like everyone has the perfect life, but it's like,
Mhm.
for a fact that nobody has the perfect life.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're gonna get into that, but
Yeah.
and it's hard because we're technically, because we're podcasters, we're influencers. And
Yes.
so, it's hard to balance that. But for me, I don't care. Like, I remember after season 3, I told everybody I am tired. Things are not going right in life. I am taking a break, and you will get an episode. You will get a new season when I feel like giving you one. Because I'm not gonna keep taking random pictures and like, oh, I'm so happy and things are going right. They're not.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I am exhausted.
Hey, and we
You
all need
know,
a break.
and we need a break. It's necessary.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So my second self-care tip is to learn to let go of the hate.
Oh,
Okay.
I need
So
that for myself. Continue.
l- learn to let go of the hate, whether it be, you know, hatred of, things in your own life, or someone's hatred of you, or someone's hatred of things that you care about.
Hmm.
I feel like too often, what it really comes down to is, if I want to dig a little bit deeper into this subject, is I think it's important to let go of the things you can't control.
Yes. Yes.
Because there are so many things in your life, whether it's, I can go on to so many different topics,
Hmm.
but just staying right here with the hatred thing. Like, I think a lot of people get caught up with, either focusing on things that they don't like about their life or things they don't like about life in general, or they get caught up thinking about people who are, saying things about them, or saying things
Right.
about, people that they care about, saying
Hmm.
things that, just saying things that you don't want to hear. But at the end of the day, you can't really do something about it. I mean,
Right.
you can't really affect other people's opinions. And you honestly, I mean, if you hate something in your life that you can't change, you probably can't change it immediately yourself either.
Hmm.
So don't spend too much time focusing on things you can't control. I mean,
Yeah.
it all is doing is just going right back to the energy thing. It's just sapping your energy where you could be putting that somewhere better, somewhere more positive. So yeah, don't spend so much time invested in hate.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave it because that was perfect. I'm gonna move on to my next one. That's the best one. Um, what is my next one? Oh, so many. Oh, I talked about this in an Instagram live,
Yeah.
and I'm going to talk about this. Sleep. Take care
Yes.
of your sleep, and make sure sleep is a priority in your life. I know, as we hear people that talk about, like, Kevin Gates came out with the song and said, "I got 6 jobs. I don't get tired." And people tell you, if you're an entrepreneur, you should be grinding and no sleep and all that. No, no, you need your sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is necessary for your body to heal itself. It's necessary for your mind to heal itself. It's necessary, and so make sure you take care of your sleep patterns. You pay attention to your sleep patterns because it could tell you a lot that's going on in your life. If you're jumping in your sleep or if you're waking up startled, that means you need to fix some things. Also, if you are also create a bedtime routine. Make sure you have something to tell your body so your body knows the signal. Hey, we're about to go to sleep. Not, hey, she's bringing her laptop to the bed. We're about to do some more work. Like, you want to make sure that you make sleep a priority and make a good sleep routine so that you can get proper rest.
It's interesting about that. I'm not going to go too far into it, but I went to college for psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they would talk about is that you kind of create little zones in your mind about where you do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, like if you associate like sleep with a certain area, it's important to keep that zone in your house like just associated with sleep.
Right.
And if you associate another place with work, just keep that place with work, because if you end up bringing like a work setting into your sleep setting, it's going to mess up your ability to sleep in your sleep area.
So true.
And so like kind of like for me, I have like a room in my house where like I kind of like I go in there, and that's like where I just do my work at. I don't do work anywhere else. So I know that when I come in here, I'm focused on just getting the job done.
Right. And that's a very good thing to do. We tell our students, we tell our students and the students' parents to not let them study in the bed, because teenagers don't sleep anyways. But if they're in the bed studying, the brain doesn't dissociate, doesn't say, hey, it's the bed, now it's time to go to sleep. It just thinks, oh, we're about to do some more studying. So It stays active and it stays functioning, and then they don't go to sleep until 2-3 o'clock in the morning, have to wake up early and come to school, and now they're tired and they're looking at me because I'm telling them, no, you can't take a nap. But
I was definitely one of those kids, so I know exactly what it is.
See, that's what it is. You can't do it. I told y'all he knew what he was talking about. When I talk about certain things, I had somebody come on that could back it up with some education.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, honestly, it just comes from just the reinforcement principles, really.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but just kind of like we're going to get into reinforcement a little bit later. So I'm going to just transition really quick to my last self-care tip, which is invest in yourself. I feel like a lot of the unhappiness that comes from life comes from when you feel like you don't have something to look forward to. When you don't have something that you are actively like trying to get to. It doesn't have to be like, something is like, oh, like I got to get more money or I need to get more things. It doesn't have to be something like that. It could just be like a little project that's something that you do at home that makes you happy. Like maybe you like to sing, or maybe you like to create things. Maybe you want to be a mechanic and you want to go learn how to like work on cars some more. Just do something that makes you feel happy. I had a friend talk to me what was it, earlier this year, and I was telling him about the job that I had and how much I hated the job. And I didn't really have anything else I was doing at the time, because this was like right before I started the podcast.
Right.
And he was talking to me, and I was telling him, I was just like, I feel like I'm getting a little bit older. I'm not really doing what I want to do in my life right now. I'm not really sure what I should do. And he just gave me some real simple advice, and he just said, you should do whatever it is that no one would have to force you to do.
Yes. Yep.
And that really stuck with me. I kind of like I actually like paused the conversation. I had to like sit there for a second, let that sink in. But honestly, I've been trying to like take that into the rest of my life since then. So for like the rest of this year so far, I've been just thinking to myself, like, I need to invest more into myself and just do things in my life that like make me feel better, and that I don't feel like I'm forcing myself to do. I don't want to go out and do a bunch of things that I feel like I have to do or that I should do. I want to do things that I genuinely want to do, and I look forward to doing them.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's where I am in my life too. Like, it's like, okay, you are tired of waking up early. You don't like this. What are you going to do about it? And so now it's forcing me to look to see, okay, what other skills do I have that I can have fun with using those skills? So that's a big one, like investing in yourself. And I also want to point, like you were saying that, and a lot of unhappiness comes when you feel like you're giving more to others than you're giving to yourself. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, like you see somebody who you put into, genuinely put into, and you see them taking off, but the projects that you're working on, aren't taking off at the same pace. At some point, you have to have balanced energy. You can't give out more than you're putting into your own self, because it'll just make you angry.
No, that's true. That's
Yeah,
absolutely true. Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, most important thing is just to take time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be plenty of time for others. Just make sure you don't forget about yourself along the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I try every day, and because I want to end up with this one, because that was a good one. I think every day you should always try to do something that makes you happy, whether it's cooking, whether it's, just anything, whatever makes you happy and you want to be in a happy place for the day. Find 10 minutes out of the day to do that, because I think that'll start bringing more joy into your life than you getting stuck in this humdrum routine of, oh, I got to go to work. Oh, I got to get home and clean. Oh, I got to do this. Like, do something out of the day that actually brings you joy and that you can also look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can look forward to every day. Well, these self-care tips were good. I'm going to write some of these down for myself because you dropped some knowledge. I appreciate it.
I'm trying.
I do appreciate it. He came ready. So but let's switch gears and let's get into confession time. Hey Confessions fam, if you have any questions about this episode or any other episode, or you want to be on the show, please email theconfessionsfromaredcouch@gmail.com. Make sure to join the newsletter, read the blog, and catch up on previous episodes at confessionsfromaredcouch.com. Also, don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share the episodes on all major listening platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. Now let's jump back into the show.
Yes.
My favorite time. This is the main segment where we get into some good topics. And today I wanted to talk about social media. So
Okay.
my husband and I were watching Netflix, and we ran into this docu-series, or I don't know what, docudrama. I think that's what they called it, and it was called the. Let me bring it up because I want to say everything right. On Netflix, it was called The Social Dilemma. And
Okay.
so on this show, it talked about how social media was actually designed. Like the negative things that we see out of social media, it was designed that way.
Right.
And so I want to get into that and talk about how it's affecting not just our countries, but countries just everywhere. It's across the globe. But I also want to get into, and we'll get into it later, and how it's affecting, politics in our
Yes.
countries and other countries, because I feel like it's without the parameters and the things that aren't on it, the safeguards. I don't think there's enough safeguards for it. So let's jump in. So how do you feel, first of all, about social media?
It's a love-hate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me personally, I've been spending time on social media for like a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
I started a Facebook page back in like 2010 when I was in college. Just kind of like out of boredom, because I was kind of just like trying to see like what it would be like to create my own Facebook page. This was back when Facebook pages were a lot bigger than they are now.
Right.
But like I spent like over a year trying to get like all like the fans that you could, because back then they were still referred to as fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so by the time I was done, like in 2012, I had like 38,000 fans on my page,
Wow.
and just posting just stupid memes,
Mm-hmm.
just a bunch of nonsense. But like people kept coming back for it. But like over the years, I learned how to like create a following on Twitter and on Instagram. And I mean, I feel like after a while, it was more or less just an addiction.
Right. Yeah.
Like I I was consumed with like how many posts, I mean, how many likes did this post get, and how many
Mhm.
shares did I get here, and how many new
Mhm.
followers am I getting? And like when you take a step back, like none of that really matters, but like I couldn't stop doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it definitely is something that I would liken to an addiction after a while. And I feel like for some people, not only is it an addiction, but it's like they tie it directly to their self-worth,
Yes. Yeah.
where they
It's
feel
like
like,
validation.
yeah, like they don't feel like they are good enough if they don't get a certain amount of interactions on a post. Like you'll see
Mhm.
people taking down posts because like, oh, it didn't get enough likes in the first hour.
Yeah, which makes no sense to me. I mean, well, let me say that from a personal side, it doesn't make any sense to me because whatever you're posting, for me, and I'm saying this, but I'm guilty of it too. But to me, what I would think of is, oh, you're just sharing a part of your life, so it shouldn't matter if people like it or not because that's something you wanted to share, right?
Right.
But I mean, I even fall into that sometimes. Today I posted something on Facebook and I'm going back to see how many likes it has and how many comments it has. And
Right.
it really doesn't matter. Like like I look at the post and like you said, the post is silly. It's funny. It causes, it's a great debate between sugar grits and salt grits, like what goes into it. But
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to see, oh, this person commented, this person said anything. But does it really matter? Does it matter when it all comes down to it? It doesn't. It like you said, it doesn't feed my soul. Those are empty, like
Empty calories.
yeah, empty calories, empty interactions,
Yeah.
empty just everything. And then the social dilemma, yes, I'm saying it right. The social dilemma, that's what it was talking about. They were saying how that's the way they design social media is to kind of feed that, it's like your ego, to feed that ego monster that's gobbling up all these, these fake likes and these fake things.
Right.
Uh-huh.
It I think to break it down a little bit further, what you really have when you have social media, you have a lot of different emotions happening, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
like, because the thing that people do the most when they're on social media is they scroll, right?
Yes.
You're using your thumbs, just scrolling through.
Just scrolling through.
And as you scroll through, you're going to see multiple things. You're going to see things that piss you off. You're going to see
Mm-hmm.
things that make you happy. You're going to see things that make you laugh. You're going to see things that intrigue you. But like all of those different things, those all represent different emotions.
Yep.
And so what really happens is that these devices, social media in particular right now, they are essentially telling you that if you scroll, you're going to have a bunch of different emotions as you're doing it.
Right.
And for your brain, that is, similar to essentially what happens when you take drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You are firing what, like your dopamine, like in your
Yep.
brain. And every time that happens, you're just reinforcing just like your pleasure responses in your brain. And so it just makes you want to continue to use it because it's
Mm-hmm.
giving you pleasure every time that you do. And so even though nothing really like concrete or impactful is really coming out of scrolling all the time, it keeps you coming back because you keep
Yep.
getting that pleasure response.
So true. That's all you keep getting. It's like a like a crackhead. That's
And that
what it is.
it is a drug, honestly. it,
Right.
it operates the exact same way in your
Mm-hmm.
brain. It makes dopamine fire in your brain, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yes, that was good, give me more.
Yep. Yep. So don't be a social media crackhead, guys. I want to let's switch gears and talk about the other documentary that. Well, I want it. I'm saying switch gears, but the social dilemma got into this as well, and how it puts you. It also puts you in a bubble.
Yes.
So whenever the people who you are friends with, like it creates an algorithm, like it knows what you like, it
Yes.
mirrors what you like, and it'll keep giving you more of what you like. And that's scary because it can do some dangerous things, which we're seeing now. But you have to make sure with social media, whenever you friend somebody and you like a certain post, then they're like, okay, let's give them more of that, more of this. So what I see on my social media is completely different than what you see on your social media, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just that whole getting put in a bubble, I think, is what is separating us mainly as a country. Um,
True.
yeah, I think because we're not seeing each other's views. The memes that I see that support one thing, another person who doesn't support that sees a totally different meme that involves that. So,
Yeah.
you
No,
want to touch on that a little?
no, definitely,
Yeah.
because this is honestly, when you look at the reason why this happened, it's the same principle that's been applied throughout the business world,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is like businesses will do things that is good for business,
Yeah.
but not really caring about the repercussions that it will have on the population.
True.
You see that with the environment, you
Mm-hmm.
see that in big business all over the place, but
Mm-hmm.
particularly here, I think with Facebook in particular, they I think I want to say it's between 80 to 100 interactions is what their algorithm does.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you'll see the same, not just people, but like news sources and other
Mm-hmm.
entertainment. So you'll get the same like 80 to 100 like accounts. They'll
Yep.
be circulated in your algorithm. And you'll constantly see those things. And that's why you're wondering like, oh, why do I never see so and so's post? They're not in your algorithm.
Yeah, they're not in your algorithm.
Yeah, you
Well,
can
and that's
change your
like,
algorithm, but if you
yeah.
do, you'll pick that person up that you're trying to change it with, and someone else will drop.
Yep.
And
And
so
that's
you'll always have that
crazy.
same bubble. Like my social media looks so different from my girlfriend's social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I go on, I see her on Facebook sometimes, and I'm just like, your algorithm is crazy. Like the people in your life are crazy. That's all
They're
I'm trying to
crazy. I
say.
don't really like what they're doing. It's not even that.
Yeah,
It's just like they're crazy.
yeah, the people are crazy.
It's funny. I looked at, I'm not gonna say this. Someone who I know who is a Trump supporter. I looked at
Yeah,
their Facebook feed compared to my Facebook feed.
it's
My
crazy.
goodness. That's why I'm gonna say it, and y'all know I'm not a Trump supporter at all. He can go. Um, no wonder why they are batshit crazy. I get it now.
Yeah, I actually kept a couple. I live.
Uh-huh.
I didn't say it at the top of the podcast, but I live in the state of Montana,
Yeah.
and so I have friends on my Facebook feed who are both like Trump supporters and then
Mhm.
not Trump supporters,
Mhm.
because I feel like that's basically where the
Yeah,
country's at right now.
it is.
And I actually, after I learned about the algorithm, which was a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
I went out of my way to keep a couple Trump supporters in my feed just so that I wouldn't have too concentrated of a bubble. Because
Right.
as a person who does like engage in politics, I thought it was important to know what the other side was saying, you
Mhm.
know. And I just some of that stuff, I couldn't even wrap my head around
I
it. Like,
can't.
I'm not gonna get too deep into the rabbit hole here, but I
Mhm.
think the thing that like really got me like I think it was like a month or so ago when the wildfires were going crazy all over the
Mhm.
country. Like the thing I was seeing from some of these people was just like, oh yeah, the wildfires are not from climate change, they're from Antifa. And I
What?
was like, what?
What?
What? Like these people, like, I thought it was a joke at first. I was like, oh, that's just a dumb meme, right? But I actually like went in there, and there's
Uh-huh.
a bunch of people who are 100% convinced that climate change was not real, and the only
Yeah.
reason that there were wildfires in this country was because Antifa was running
Mhm.
up and down California and Oregon and Washington,
And it
just lighting
fires.
fires everywhere because they wanted to affect Trump.
Yeah, no, I don't even get that. Just I saw
There's a
another. How about this meme? So this was a meme during the primaries.
Yeah,
So it was one about Bernie Sanders and him raising the tax rate for middle class, and it did some stupid math that wasn't even right, and it was nothing that Bernie said,
right.
and that was being circulated. So then I saw a couple, I want to say, this was about a couple weeks ago, about a month and a half ago. I saw the same meme, but instead of Bernie's name on it, it was
Joe
Biden's
Biden.
name in it. And I was
Yep.
like, I said, do people not understand? Like, this is the same meme. There's nothing and there's no source behind it.
No, they just make things up and just throw it out there.
And people believe it. And they think well, it has to be true. Here's another thing I want to bring up. So I don't know if you remember, Um, they had those fake doctors, and I'm going to call them fake doctors because they were do that press conference. And they had, I don't know if it was a video, and they had the one African doctor on there, and she was talking about how she gave her patients that malaria treatment drug.
Oh, hydroxychloroquine?
Yes, yes, and how so she apparently was talking, and she worked at a clinic here in Houston,
Okay.
right? So everybody was like, the video wasn't up for long, and Facebook, YouTube, everybody took it down because they knew who had funded it. It was like someone from the extreme right who had funded to get it done.
Right.
Nobody knew if these people were actually doctors or anything. And
Right.
so it went up real fast, and then they took it down. So then it created a conspiracy theory about, well, why don't they want us to hear from these people? Why did Facebook take it down? Stay woke, guys. They just don't want that young queen, not young queen. They don't want that black queen to speak her truth. And I was like, am I true? It's another thing where you're like, wait a second. Just because this was on social media, and it was taken down for a reason. So,
Yeah.
and then me doing my research, I went in and researched the lady that they had up talking. She cannot practice medicine. She cannot prescribe any medication. She was working at the clinic to check people in. It wasn't her actual clinic. She was she was a minister who told people that um, it was a bunch of stuff she said
Yeah.
that if people would have just did research instead of thinking it was a conspiracy theory as to why the social media took it down, because it was a reason. Sometimes they flag things. Sometimes I give Facebook and them credit for taking stuff down. Sometimes,
Right.
not always. But it caused like this huge disruption, and people were really thinking that, y'all don't want to listen to the black lady and she got something to say. No, she didn't. She didn't have anything to say. Like she didn't have a license to practice medicine.
Right.
But y'all just believed it because she was up there with other people who look like doctors with the doctor's coat on, spouting all this stuff, and it wasn't even true. So,
Yeah. I mean, we're living in a tough time right now where like, and I honestly, like, I don't know if you want to get too deep into it or not, but I feel like
no, we
with
can.
okay, with Trump attacking the truth the way that he does,
Mm-hmm.
the and honestly, like this is like one of my biggest complaints about him is that he has
Mm-hmm.
created this culture in our country where like nobody knows what's real anymore.
Yeah.
Like you, like is even if you have people who have spent their entire lives studying a subject, like imagine the kids you knew in high school who
Yeah.
did nothing but but just loved chemistry. And then
Mm-hmm.
you saw him in college, you saw her in college, and they were doing nothing but studying chemistry. And
Right.
then you saw them get out of college and then go into the field and have a job at like some chemical like company. And
Mm-hmm.
then that person produces a study about like something they've been spending nothing but the last like 10, 15, 20 years of their life like working on.
Mm-hmm.
And to have some person online being like, well, that's just fake news. And then everyone believes it because that one person said it was
Said
fake.
it. And
Like that's crazy to
it
me.
is crazy. It's crazy because we're just, I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, who was the basketball player who believed that Earth was flat?
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving. He had to go back and say, I fell down the rabbit hole. I was wrong. I went down the rabbit hole
I don't
YouTube
even
video,
believe that apology, but I'm glad he said it anyway.
but I'm happy he said it. But it's just whenever you have him get up and say
Yeah.
these things just because he watched some videos on YouTube that were not scientifically backed at all. It was people saying stuff. And it's weird. Like you said, it is the weirdest thing. And then it just keeps getting passed on through social media. Like,
You
oh,
know,
you
yeah,
know, this and this, and then people keep sharing it, which makes it more popular because you keep sharing it.
right.
No,
Well,
it's not
yeah, no, there's a couple things about that. I mean,
true. Mm-hmm.
one of the main problems is that like people have a problem with generalizing. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I mean by that is like there are some conspiracy theories out there that if you sat down and listened to them, you're like, I don't know if that's true, but I could see how it could be true.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then when you have that in your mind, then you generalize to the next time where it's like the next time you hear a conspiracy theory, you just automatically think, well, maybe that could be true. And then the next
Right.
time you're like thinking that maybe that could be true. You
Hmm.
don't really, but the problem is you don't take the time to look at them all individually.
Right.
Just because one thing could be true doesn't mean that they all can be true.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and I feel like, just going off into a deeper rabbit hole, I'm not going to spend too much time there,
Hmm.
but I think that is ultimately why Fox News has the following that it does.
Yeah.
Because Fox News is really big about, and this is another thing that I do for my podcast. I think it's important to understand like what Fox says because,
Hmm.
it's one thing just to call them all crazy. It's another thing to understand how they're manipulating people.
Right.
And so I'll watch segments that Tucker Carlson does. And what he does, like, is try to like put out one fact that CNN refuses to cover. And
Hmm.
it's a fact that would be that it's hard to like argue against.
Yeah.
And then he'll use that to lure you in, and then he'll feed you a bunch of BS after that
Yep.
because like, at that point in time he's created this like validity, he's created
Mhm.
this like sense of like authority with you because he pointed out one thing that was true. Now he can feed you a bunch of stuff that's not true.
He feed you a bunch of BS, and then
Yes,
people were like, "Well, that has to be true because he gave us this one fact."
exactly. And that's honestly, that is like the motto of Fox News. Let me feed you some news and then give you a bunch of crap.
Hmm.
But and it's effective, it
Yeah,
works,
it is
you know.
effective, and it works, and it's worked so effectively that other countries were able to kind of infiltrate our social media and affect our election in 2016.
Yes.
So, I mean, and this is widely known, and it's known that they try to do it again. I saw there was another news report that it was on Twitter. It like blew up like really big that
Yeah.
they were trying to do the same thing they did in 2016, which is influence the social media and get to our social media to influence everybody on either not voting for, doing a write-in thing, which is what they were trying to do with Kanye, which was so dumb.
Oh God.
They could have picked anybody else, but like I just in my mind, I don't know why they picked him. Like, what about
He's
him?
the only person who would say yes.
True, you're right. You are correct about that one. Now that I think about it, you're right. You're so true. So right and so true. All right. So either write somebody in or just to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that because
Yeah. I got a lot of
I
thoughts on that.
I didn't realize it until I just because of social media, you see people who troll other
Yeah.
folks. And I saw during the 2016 election, I remember seeing a lot of ads or a lot of people telling for the younger African American population,
Right.
telling them not to vote because their vote wouldn't count.
Really?
Yes, I saw a lot of that because, and that's just because of the age difference between me and my sisters. I'm
Yeah.
I'm the older millennial and they're the younger. They're
Right. Right.
and so, I'm telling them and my mom's telling them about why we need to vote and all this stuff. And then they're telling us these things about, well, I'm not voting because it doesn't count anyways. And I'm not voting for Hillary because of her emails. And I'm not, and I was like, who told you? Like, what about these emails?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what she did that was like criminal and why don't you think your vote counts? And they were like, well, it just doesn't. I mean, look, we vote one way and stuff gets done opposite of what we want to do anyways. I said, you don't have an example of that. And because like I said, they're in their 20s. So they don't
Right.
really, they don't see that.
No, no, it's fair. I mean, I think a lot of people don't want to spend time talking about politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that it's a hard conversation to have, and people don't really want to have hard conversations about things where you feel like you don't have a whole lot of power over, right? It kind of goes back to the whole not focusing on things you can't control things, right? And I feel like a lot of people feel like they have no control, so they don't get invested into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can understand why it's demoralizing to a lot of people. At the same time, one of the things I like to point out to people is that by consistently being engaged, like you may not change things immediately, but eventually things do change, especially, and you can change the maps altogether.
Yes.
I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
as a really small example, in Georgia, for instance, Georgia has been a red state forever.
Yeah.
And in 2012, Barack Obama lost that state by 8 points. And then in 2016, Hillary lost it by 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the last 2018 election, Stacey Abrams lost it by 1.5 points. And that was a
Right.
whole lot of voter suppression, which
Yeah.
you don't even have to go into.
Yeah.
And now Biden's leading in the polls in Georgia. So, I mean, that's just one example. But my point is, like, if people keep showing up,
Mm-hmm.
then things can change. And now Georgia might actually flip the whole country.
I'm
And
praying.
it's
I'm praying.
no, and it's one of those things where it's like if you had just like sat back in 2012 and being like, oh, Georgia's a red state, we just can't do
Mm-hmm.
anything about it. If they had that mentality, we wouldn't be in a position now where Georgia could actually keep Donald Trump from being the president again.
That's right. Yep. So true.
It's but on the whole troll side of it, that is definitely still happening. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I actually experienced it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I was on Facebook and I made a comment in a local newspaper Facebook page, and I had 7 different accounts like my profile picture a couple hours later, and I went and looked at all these new likes, and they were all fake accounts.
Yeah.
All
Mm-hmm.
7 of them. They were all women who were all claimed to be from America, but their accounts were clearly fake.
Right.
Yeah, not a single post on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have 2 different feelings about the whole people interfering in our politics thing. One, I feel bad for people here in this country because I feel like it's really hard to know the difference between someone who's actually just everyday life troll and then somebody
Right.
who's trolling for the sake of trying to interfere with the election. It's hard to know the
Exactly.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I have a hard time being too critical of those countries, which may sound crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but I know our history, and America has been messing with everybody's elections forever.
That is true.
I mean, we are kind of like the mob. We've been going around the world messing with everybody's elections. I mean, we messed with Russia's elections for years. We messed with China's elections for years. We knock down governments and say hey, listen, you better put somebody in there that we like. You understand?
That we like, so we can support you in any way that we can. You like our army? You like that? You don't get that if you don't put this person in. No, you are right.
I remember Cat Williams talking about it back in the day. Talking about how America was a bunch of bullies, just going around the world, just beating people up. And so now the countries are doing it to us. I kind of have a hard time being like, oh, they shouldn't do that. I think it's just kind of on us to just be a little more educated, and just understanding when we're being lied to.
Yeah, that's true. And knowing even though you say everyday people, when you've encountered a troll, you kind of do. You've encountered somebody who, and you can tell by the wording they use. That's one thing you can always but beyond that, the surface of the 2 comments, if you get into a conversation with them, the wording they use is kind of off. It's wait a second. And I know because I did that before.
Yeah.
I've done it. And then I called it out. I was like, this, you aren't real though. And then they blocked me because they and it's just, I think that's something that it's just, I don't know. It's a whole thing of thinking for yourselves. And instead of using social media as your news source, go to the websites, go to go to actual things that will give you information. Facebook is not it. It's not it. Facebook is not a great
definitely it's not. Honestly, personally, I get a lot of my news from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I know that may sound a little sketchy at first, but there's actually a lot of just independent news sources that are on YouTube right now that actually are worth your time. There's a lot of them that aren't worth your time, so be careful. Be careful. But there are some really good sources out there on YouTube that do actual news shows, and they will cite their information. They'll tell you where they get their information from, so you can go look at it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And Not that you want to do that every single day, but I think if you do it once or twice, it'll give you a good idea about who's real and who's not.
Exactly. At this point, I think you should do it every single day. You should. And the reason
Yeah.
why is because I had kids for 3 years running around asking me if water is wet. That is why you have to.
Oh my God.
Yes, yes. That is why social media is not your source for things. And also, when you Google, it's not good to click the first thing that comes up on Google because that's just the one that's had the most clicks. That doesn't mean it's truthful.
It's true. That's very true.
Truthful. It just has the most clicks. Its SEO is on point. It grabs
Yes.
attention, and that's all that it did. Google is doing its job. Well, thank you so much for having this discussion with me. I like it when sometimes, people allow me to go down a rabbit hole because
Hey, I could have went further, but I didn't want to I didn't want to get too much on the first time I come on the podcast. You
No,
gotta
it's
save
fine.
some for the comeback.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm all about revealing truth and knowledge and things that are real and not
Yes.
I need people to deal with facts and not just because somebody could stand up and yell things the loudest.
Yes.
That's it. That's what I really because that's how I work. That's how my mind works. I deal in facts. I don't deal in emotions. But thank you so much. I do appreciate you for being on the show, being on the red couch. Do you have any last things you want to leave the people with?
Yeah. I guess just a quick plug for myself.
Yep.
Just once again, my name's Desmond Price. The podcast is called Independent Thought. Look me up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Those are the two best places to find me. You can follow me on Instagram, same name as the podcast, Independent Thought. Come check me out on there. I'll be posting some things here and there about the podcast. My final thought that I want to leave people is that I hear a lot about people talking about how their votes don't matter. And as a person who has a political podcast, obviously I gotta leave you with something political.
Mm-hmm.
Your vote 100% matters. So much so that there's an entire party here in this country that does a lot of its time trying to keep people from voting.
Yes.
They go way out of their way to keep people from voting, especially people who have a certain melanation to their skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't ever think for a second that those people are spending that many hours out of the day, that many days out of the week, that much time in their life trying to keep people from vote if it didn't matter. On top of that fact, there's somebody out there who's trying to do everything that they can to, keep the truth kind of hidden from their own followers, being Donald Trump, just lying to his own people, trying to get them all pissed off about things that aren't even real.
Mm-hmm.
People don't go to those lengths if they don't matter. People
Right.
don't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on TV ads every year if your vote doesn't matter.
Yep.
Please go out there, register, go vote. Do us all a favor. We need more people to vote.
We do.
In 2016, 100 million people who could vote in this country did not vote.
Mm.
That's crazy to me. That is crazy. We got to drop that number.
And
everyone.
then we have people complain about the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah, can't do that.
So please, do us a favor. If you have any listeners, in these swing states, for instance, please get out there and vote.
Yeah.
Please
vote. And just my last comment, if you are registered, check your registration. Make sure you have not been purged from the records, because that happened here in Texas during the primaries. People learned that they were no longer registered to vote. So please go check your registration. There is a link in the show notes, and register so that you are able to have your voice heard, because it's necessary. So check your registration. If you look at my Facebook and Instagram accounts, I'm big on checking your registration. Make sure you are registered. All right. Thank you once again so much for coming on the Red Couch. You are welcome anytime. Guys, you can find Confessions from a Red Couch on all major listening platforms. Now it includes Amazon Music. Please go on one of them and leave a great recommendation or a great rating or a review, and I would really appreciate it. Until next time, guys, this is the show, and we will see you again. Take care.